Picture the final minute of a World Cup final. Norway, a nation that hasn't even qualified for the tournament since 1998, is one goal away from lifting the trophy. And the man about to score it is the same player carrying the entire weight of this run on his back, one goalscorer against the collective machinery of the world's biggest football nations. What would it actually take for Erling Haaland to drag Norway to a World Cup title? The first problem isn't Haaland, it's math. Norway's population is just over 5 million people, a talent pool smaller than the metro area of a single major European city. Countries like Brazil, France, and Argentina draw from tens of millions of players, entire pyramids of academies producing world-class talent at every position. Norway has produced generational talent at exactly one position, and it happens to be the one that scores goals, not the ones that also need to create them, defend them, and organize an entire tournament run around them. Can one brilliant piece actually carry an entire chessboard by itself? History gives us a partial answer, and it's more encouraging than you might expect. Diego Maradona famously carried Argentina to the 1986 World Cup title, a tournament where he scored or assisted 10 of Argentina's 14 goals across the competition, including two of the most famous goals in World Cup history in a single match against England. Argentina wasn't a small nation like Norway, but that tournament remains the clearest proof in football history that a single transcendent talent can single-handedly tilt the outcome of the biggest stage in the sport. If Maradona could do it for a mid-tier footballing nation in 1986, is the ceiling for Haaland lower simply because his passport says Norway instead of Argentina? There's also the smaller-scale example of George Weah, who spent his career trying to lift Liberia toward major tournaments largely on the strength of his individual brilliance, without ever quite getting there, a reminder that even the most dominant individual talent has a ceiling when the supporting cast isn't built to sustain a full tournament run. The difference for Haaland is context. He's not playing in isolation the way Weah often was. Norway's current generation includes real depth around him, players competing at a high level across Europe, even if none of them command the same weight of expectation. Would that supporting cast be enough, or does a World Cup title require more collective talent than even a golden generation around one superstar can provide? Football analytics firms like Opta model tournament outcomes using expected goals data pooled across a team's full squad, not just its best player, and those models consistently show that even heavily favored teams with one dominant scorer rarely win tournaments without balanced contributions across multiple matches. A World Cup isn't one game. It's 7 matches in a month against increasingly elite opposition, with fatigue, injuries, and suspensions compounding as the tournament progresses. Could Haaland physically survive 7 matches of defenses building their entire game plan around stopping him specifically, without the tournament grinding him down before the final even arrives? That's the tactical reality opposing coaches would exploit immediately. Any team facing Norway would build its entire defensive setup around nullifying one player, doubling and tripling their marking around Haaland the moment he touches the ball, daring the rest of Norway's lineup to beat them instead. This is precisely what happened to Weah's Liberia, and to a lesser extent, what other nations have tried against dominant individual talents throughout tournament history. Would Norway's supporting players be able to punish that overcommitment, or would defenses correctly calculate that stopping Haaland means stopping Norway entirely? There's a psychological dimension here too, one that's harder to measure than expected goals models. Carrying an entire nation's hopes through knockout football creates a specific kind of pressure that has broken great players before, the sense that every mistake isn't just a missed chance, but potentially the end of a country's only realistic shot in a generation. Some players thrive under exactly that weight, using it as fuel. Others visibly buckle under it, the pressure changing decision-making in the biggest moments of the biggest games. Which version of Haaland would we actually see if Norway somehow found itself 2 wins away from the final? And there's the structural question sitting underneath everything else, the one that has nothing to do with talent at all. Qualifying is its own tournament, a gauntlet that has repeatedly kept talented Norwegian squads out of major tournaments for over 2 decades. Haaland would first need to simply get Norway to the World Cup before any of this hypothetical glory becomes possible. A task that depends heavily on group draws, refereeing decisions, and the kind of luck that has nothing to do with individual brilliance. Is the harder challenge actually winning the tournament, or just earning the right to compete in it in the first place? Maybe the real answer to this hypothetical isn't really about whether Haaland has the talent. Few would argue he doesn't. It's about whether football, unlike almost every other sport, has ever really allowed one player to be sufficient. Basketball has shown us that a single transcendent talent can drag a team deep into a championship run. Football's larger rosters, longer matches, and tactical complexity have made that far rarer, not because the talent doesn't exist, but because the sport itself resists being solved by one person, no matter how dominant. Would Haaland be the exception that finally breaks that pattern, or would he become another data point proving that even genius has a ceiling when it's playing alone?